We are live. Hey, how is it going? Lee Hayward here with the Total Fitness Bodybuilding video chat for Friday, August the 19th. And the way these video chats work is I'm going to be hanging out here for the next hour-ish, answering any questions and topics of discussion that you may have when it comes to building muscle, losing fat, and getting in your best shape. So if you do have any questions or topics that you would like me to cover, please feel free to post those into our video chat window, and I'll do the best that I can to cover those topics over the course of our chat. So anything related to your exercise program, your eating plan, building muscle, losing fat, any specific challenges, go ahead, post those questions and topics into our chat, and I'll do the best I can. All right, we got a few people joining in already. Sean is joining in, Lee's joining in. Welcome, guys. And it is coming through loud and clear. Thank you. I normally do ask for that, but you're letting me know in advance. Good stuff. Awesome. Much appreciated. And I have a question that I want to start things off with. And this was one that was sent in from last week's video chat. And this is something that I do encourage you to do. If you have a question or topic that you would like to have addressed and you want to make sure that it gets addressed, is you can send them in advance. And this is one that was sent in from Rocco from last week. So the way I think he normally catches the replays the next day. So obviously he's not tuning into the live video chats, and just due to time zone restrictions. I mean, obviously this isn't convenient for everybody. I mean, and depending on where you are, this could be in the early morning, it could be the middle of the day, it could be late at night, or anywhere in between, right? So if you can't make it live, then you can always catch the replay afterwards, and of course you can send in questions in advance, and that's what Rocco's done. And I have my email address down in the description below this video if you want to contact me with any questions like that, and we can chat offline as well. So this is what Rocco's got to say. He says, Lee, I hope you're well, and thanks for the info you've given me through the years. It's really helped a lot. I have a question for your YouTube video chat. Can I get in decent shape doing a full body workout 2 days a week? He said, and he lists off the sample of the exercises that he has planned to do. And basically says, I only have 2 days a week for working out due to my work schedule, kids, family, and other commitments. He plans to work out Tuesdays and Thursdays. He says he's 5'11", 13 stone, 7 pounds, and he wants to focus on losing fat, building lean muscle, and he wants to know if this will work. So 2 days a week, right? Can you still make progress with just 2 workouts a week? And the simple answer is yes, you can still make progress 2 days a week. Now, is it optimal? Not necessarily. I mean, I think more frequency would be better. But if you're just starting off and you're currently doing 0 days per week, then 2 days per week is a huge step in the right direction. And the big thing that you need to focus on when it comes to any type of change that you're going to make to your fitness and nutrition, lifestyle, is let go of this all or nothing perfection approach, right? Because that can really hold a lot of people back. Like it's actually holding Rocco back, because here he is, he's debating whether to even do anything, right? Like I don't have 6 days a week to go to the gym. Should I go at all? Like he's debating it because he's thinking all or nothing, right? If I can't do it all in, if I can't be perfect, and screw it, what's the point of doing anything at all? And that's the enemy of progress. Like this perfection is the enemy of progress. And sometimes when you're following fitness influencers and stuff like that, like you're watching people on YouTube and you're following people on social media and stuff, and you're seeing all the stuff that different people are doing, and you're seeing like how much work and how much time and they're investing into their program, and how advanced it is and everything else, it can be overwhelming, because you get caught up thinking, well, that's what it takes, and that's what I need to do. If I'm going to try and get in shape, I need to do what they're doing. And they're probably much further along in their fitness journey than you are at this stage of the game. Especially if somebody's got a YouTube channel, especially if somebody's sharing their stuff on social media and everything else. Like most of the time, they're not beginners. They're the exception, not the rule, right? That's the way it works. Because the average Joe, like you go to any fitness gym, right? You go to your local gym and you look at the average person in there, and I'm going to tell you, the average person that you see at the gym, if you didn't see them at the gym, you probably wouldn't be able to tell they worked out, right? Like that's the reality. The average person at the gym looks like an average person, right? They're not ripped and jacked and six-pack abs year round and benching, 300 pounds for reps and all this kind of stuff. No, that's not the average person, right? The average person's overweight, out of shape, and just trying to improve, trying to be better than they were before. And that's all you have to focus on, is being better than you were before. So if you're currently doing no workouts per week, then anything is progress, anything. So if you can do 2 workouts a week, then gosh darn it, do 2 workouts a week, right? Focus on that, be consistent with it, and let it work for you. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be better than you were before. Now, as you get into it, what you're going to find, like I'm just going to share the journey with you, is once you start with 2 workouts a week, let's just say that's all you did. You committed to that and you did it for the next 6 months, right? You just said, you know what? I'm going to commit to this 2 workouts a week for the next 6 months. Over the course of several weeks, you're going to start to see, the first month is going to be a challenge. It's going to be a challenge just to show up to the gym and you kind of get into that new routine. After the first month, you're going to say, you know what? I actually like this. I'm starting to see some progress. I actually enjoy the challenge and the change of atmosphere. I enjoy being at the gym. I enjoy the process. And then it's going to start to become a bit more addictive. And you're going to find excuses and find ways to actually expand upon it. But it takes just giving yourself permission to take those baby steps in the right direction, right? That's what it takes initially, is giving yourself the permission, because we all have these mental blocks that are holding us back, right? Like you're thinking, well, if I can't be perfect, what's the point of doing anything at all, right? If I can't go 100%, then I'm going to go 0%, like all in or nothing. And you got to let go of that and just focus on better than you were before. That's it. Better than you were before. I mean, heck, if you could do 1 workout a week, 1 workout a week is better than nothing. But what you'll find is as you get into the routine, you're going to start to feel better. You're going to start to enjoy it. And you're going to actually start to crave the exercise. And you're going to feel good on those days that you exercise. And then you're going to look for ways that, hey, how can I squeeze in more? And you might even look in your schedule and you know what? Hey, I do have time. Maybe, on a Saturday or Sunday, maybe early in the morning or later in the evening, I can squeeze in another workout. And now it's Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturdays, or something like that. Like you'll find ways to expand upon it. Or maybe you'll look for ways to add in extra workouts at home. And this is something that you can do as well. It doesn't always have to be going to the gym and doing a 2-hour marathon workout. It could be something simple. And this is how I got back in shape, after I let myself go, after my son Harvey was born and I got the quote unquote dad bod and let myself go. That was my secret to get back in shape, was giving myself permission to do these mini workouts. And if you head on over to my blog at thew.com, you can see that I actually I wrote a blog post. The title of it was "No Time to Exercise, Start with 10 Minutes." It's right there on the first page of my blog, thew.com, if you want to go check it out. But I share the story of how I use 10-minute workouts to get back in shape. Now, I know 10 minutes doesn't sound like much, and most people say, well, hey, what can you accomplish in 10 minutes, right? It's not even enough to make any difference. But little 10-minute blocks of exercise can make a massive difference, right? And how I utilized it was, one, it just got me into the habit of exercising again. And this is key, is to develop the habit of showing up. Because most people, it's not that they don't know what to do. Like everybody knows I should eat right. Everybody knows I should exercise. Everybody knows what to do intellectually. But getting yourself to actually do it is something totally different. So you had to start off really small. And the key here is to make it so small that you can't say no. Like it's so ridiculously small, like 10 minutes. Like by the time you start to come up with excuses for why you can't do it, you could have the damn thing done. Like it's so small. Everybody's got 10 minutes, right? I mean, like if you're watching this video right now, I've probably been rambling for 10 minutes. Well, I've been rambling for 9. So you could have had a workout done almost, right? Like everybody's got 10 minutes. So keep it so small. And if 10 minutes is too big, heck, start with 5. But the bottom line is make it the initial barrier to entry so small that you can't say no. So in my case, how I did it was I said, you know what? I'm going to start with 10-minute workouts. And a lot of them was like getting outside and going for a walk, because I'm coming from the bodybuilding background, right? If you're familiar with my situation and story, I started competing in bodybuilding back in 1995. So when I did my very first competition, I was 17 years old, still a senior in high school. competed for the first time, and I got bit by the bodybuilding bug, and I was hooked. And I competed from 1995 up until 2011. That's, pretty much every year. There was a few times in there where I didn't compete, but pretty much every year from 95 to 2011, I was competing. And then I took a hiatus, 10-year hiatus. Never, and during that hiatus, my fitness gradually started to go downhill, right? Because I never had that motivation of, competing every year to keep me on track. So gradually started to get worse and worse and worse. And then, of course, 2016, son Harvey was born. Then things really fell off the wagon. And I got to the point where, I knew what I was doing wasn't optimal. I knew I should be working out more consistently, but I was like, man, I'm too tired. I'm not sleeping well. I got a newborn baby at home, all the extra responsibilities. I was like, yeah, screw it. I'm going to take the day off. I'll work out tomorrow. And then tomorrow would roll around. And I'm still too busy, still too tired. I'll start again on Monday, right? And then same with the eating. I was like, I'm too tired to meal prep. I'll just go and order a pizza or get some takeout tonight. I'll start the diet tomorrow. I'll get back on track tomorrow. And then, of course, tomorrow would roll around and I'd make up some other bullshit excuse. And then next thing you know, it's like, nah, I'll start again on Monday, right? Diet starts Monday. And then, of course, when diet starts on Monday, what do you do all weekend long? You eat like a pig, right? Because you got to get the cravings out of your system, because diet's going to start on Monday, right? So get all those cravings out of your system, get the junk food out of the house. Like, hey, I want to make sure I eat all the junk food over the weekend so I'm not tempted by it on Monday. And then I'd eat like a pig over the weekend. And then Monday would roll around. Maybe I'd diet for a day or two, and then I get off track and say, screw it, I'll start again next Monday. And that continued on, ongoing for months on end. And eventually it got to the point where I was looking in the mirror and I don't recognize the fat slob looking back at me. That's the reality. That's how the whole process happens. So I had to break out of this funk that I was in, like this negative spiral. And how I did it was with 10-minute workouts. So instead of saying, I don't have an hour to go to the gym, I don't have time to work out, or I don't have an hour to do cardio, I don't have time to do cardio, I said, I got 10 minutes, right? I'm just put on my sneakers. I'm going to walk up the road for 5 minutes, turn around and walk back, or I do a little loop. Like what ended up happening most of the time is there's a little loop outside my house. So if I walk up the road, down the road, and I'm back up again, it's a 15-minute loop, right? So that's approximately how long it takes at just a moderate pace. And that's what I would normally do. I do that little loop, right? So I said, I don't have much time, but I can haul on my sneakers. I can walk that little loop. And I would do that, right? I try to do that at least once a day. And then the more I did it, the better I felt. Because after that little tiny bit of exercise, the fresh air and the movement, I said, I feel good, right? And then I started to add to it. And I think, what? Maybe instead of doing the little 10-minute walk, maybe I'll do a 10-minute walk in the morning, and then I'll do a 10-minute body weight circuit at home, right? Like maybe I'll do some push-ups and some squats and some ab work. And you'd be amazed at what you can get done in 10 minutes. Like you do a set of push-ups, do a set of body weight squats, do a set of crunches or ab work, take a little rest and repeat, and just do that nonstop for 10 minutes. I mean, you will get a killer workout, and it takes no equipment, 10 minutes, so hardly ever any time. But at the end of it, you actually accomplish something. And it's little bits of exercise like that. It starts to build the momentum. And again, it's so small that you can't say no, right? Because there's really no excuse unless you're just a lazy sack of what, right? There's no excuse because it's such a small commitment. Like you could do it first thing in the morning. You could do it after work. You could do it on your lunch break. Like you could do it 10 minutes before you go to bed. Like everybody can squeeze in 10 minutes. So you got to make the barrier to entry so small. And then once you build the habit of just showing up day after day, week after week, and you just build that little habit, then it's going to start to expand, right? Like when I would go out for my little 10-minute walks or the walk around the loop or whatever, like I only mentally said, I only got to commit to doing a little short workout. But a lot of times what would happen is I'd get out there and I'd get the momentum going and I'd enjoy it. And I say, what? 10 minutes has gone by, but I'm still feeling good. I'm going to keep going. And then they started to expand. And sometimes I go for 20 minutes or a half hour. Sometimes I'd even go for an hour. But mentally, I only told myself I only had to go for 10. And there was a lot of times if I really was busy, I would only go for 10. But very often it would actually expand into more than that. And then I took that same principle to going to the gym and working out. So instead of thinking, I got to do a 2-hour workout at the gym, and if I don't have 2 hours, then I don't have time, I'd say, heck, if I show up for 20 minutes, like just go in there and like do a little warm up on the cardio and then do like 10 minutes of weight training and then leave again. Like that still counts. It's still better than I was before. It's something's better than nothing. And I go in there and I do that. And sometimes I literally go in and just spend like half hour in the gym and then leave again. Other times I get in there and then just the fact of walking in the door, I'd start to, feed off the energy, right? The music is playing and other people are working out and I just feed off that energy into the positive environment. And the next thing you know, I could be in there for an hour or more and it just flew by, right? So, I mean, like you got to just give yourself permission to get that momentum started. And once you do, it's going to start to snowball, right? But it's not going to be instant. It's going to take a bit of while, right? Like it's the first month, just go through the motions. After that, it's going to start to get a little bit easier, a little bit easier. And by the time you've been doing this for about 6 months or more, it's going to start to become ingrained and you're actually going to start to crave it and you're going to want it. And then when you do miss those workouts, then you're actually going to like, it's going to feel like, oh man, like I missed that workout. Like I want to work out like that. That's where it's going to be. And once you're at that stage, that's a good place to be. When you crave it and you want it and you need it, right? When you're at that stage, that's when it becomes a new habit and a new lifestyle choice. It's almost like, if you don't brush your teeth, you're like, man, my mouth feels dirty. I got to brush my teeth. Or if I don't get a shower, I stink, right? I feel dirty. I got to get a shower. Like it's got to be as automatic as that, like brushing your teeth or getting a shower. And once it becomes that way, then that's when you've made that shift. But it's going to take some time to build into that. And the key to building it, it's again, starting off small and then letting that habit build, letting it build over time. And this is one of the key principles that we cover in the whole Muscle After 40 Blueprint coaching program. Like we have a whole system outlined where we go through this whole process in great detail and take people through it step by step. But what I shared with you there, I mean, like you could start implementing that on your own to start moving in the right direction. So back to Rocco's question. Yes, 2 workouts a week, you can absolutely make progress. Start with that and then let it go from there. All right, moving on. Who else we got joining in? Sean's got a question there saying, what age do you think most lifters reach their genetic potential if they start as a teen? I'm going to unpack that question because it's going to vary for a lot of people, but I think most people hit their natural strength, muscle development potential peak, if you will, somewhere in the mid 30s. I've actually heard people say around mid 30s is when people tend to, like, that's when the muscle maturity, strength, and everything tends to peak for most people. But there's always exceptions, and I'm going to share some exceptions there. If you factor in injuries or layoffs or things like that, that's going to throw off the process. I mean, if somebody was really strict and consistent in their younger years, they may hit their peak sooner than that. If you have injuries, that could slow down the process, right? In my case, I hit my strength potential, or my strength peak, I should say. I won't say it's my potential, but I hit my strength peak in my late 20s. And then I started getting some injuries because I was pushing the limits and I had some injuries, muscle tears that really set me back in my late 20s. And it was 28 years old is when I had my first muscle tear. And I haven't been able to push the same weight since. So that was a big setback. But I think for most guys in the mid 30s is when you'll probably have the peak for muscle and strength development. And maybe even later than that too, right? Like it all depends. There's so many variables. Like a lot of times nowadays, when you're looking at professional bodybuilders, like a lot of people they're not turning pro in their 20s anymore. Like back in the old days, the pumping iron days, like Arnold turned pro back when he was in his early 20s. And you see some of the guys who used to turn pro in the early 20s, like some even like earlier than that. I think like, what was it, like Lee Priest or something turned pro at 19, or Sean Ray turned pro ridiculously young as well. Like you don't see that anymore because the level of competition is so high. It takes years to develop that muscle maturity and to achieve, the level that is competitive at this stage of the game. So like most people are turning pro in their late 30s, 40s even. Like you see that a lot. Like people are hitting their peak in their 40s. So it's evolving, right? And of course, we have other things to factor in there as well, because, with hormone replacement therapy and more advanced nutrition strategies and all that kind of stuff, the things change, right? You can prolong the curve, if you will, right? Prolong the peak, right? So I mean, it takes longer to hit the peak. And then when we're looking at other sports, like endurance sports, especially, I think the genetic potential or the genetic peak is even later than that. Sometimes you see it in the 40s and sometimes even in 50s, especially for like ultra endurance. If you're thinking like Ironman, marathons, and stuff like that, a lot of times people, you know, in their later years, like 40s plus. I mean, I know in the greater scheme of things, that's not later years, but in athletic terms, that's later years. That's when people tend to hit their peak in a lot of those sports. And I think the reason for that is the mental toughness that goes into those sports, because it's more than just the physical toughness. It's a lot of mental toughness. And sometimes you just need years of training and grit and discipline to build up that mental fortitude to endure ultra endurance. And that's why sometimes you see some of the ultra endurance athletes setting personal records and setting, sometimes world records, in their 40s and beyond. So yeah, the number is getting higher, and which is good news, because we're not getting any younger. So it's something that you can look forward to. Like, you have a lot of years of potential, ahead of you, especially if you're in your 20s, or even if you're in your 30s or whatever. Like, don't think, hey, I'm getting over the hill. Like, no, I'm just getting going. I'm getting to my peak. But yeah, that's a great question. Thanks for asking. We got Robert joining in. AJ's joining in. Robert saying, how do you consistently stay motivated to work out? What I addressed earlier when I was actually covering Rocco's question, that's a big one. The key to starting, I'm not going to rehash the whole thing that I just started off with, but you have to make the workouts initially so small that you can't say no. Start off with such a ridiculously small workout. And that's the secret. You have to make it a habit over the result. And there's a good book that I recommend everybody read. It's called Atomic Habits by James Clear. And in that book, he actually gives an example of somebody who ended up losing over 100 pounds and did so sustainably, like lost 100 pounds and sustained it. And how he started was showing up to the gym. And I don't have the book in front of me right now, but it was the ridiculously small workouts. I think he said for the first month, he didn't allow himself to stay in the gym for longer than 5 minutes. So basically, he walked in the door, dilly-dallied around for 5 minutes, turned around and walked out, and then drove home. So he would literally pack up his gym bag, drive to the gym, walk in the door for 5 minutes, dilly-dally, turn around, walk back out, and drive back home. And that's all he did. He did that every single day for a month. Now, a lot of people look at it like, that is so stupid. Like, what's the point of driving to the freaking gym for 5 minutes and then turn around and go back home? But he was thinking bigger. Like, forget the results, just build the habit. And he actually developed the habit of every single day, I got to go to the gym. And he just built the habit of showing up to the gym, showing up to the gym, showing up to the gym, and did that every single day for a month. After he had a month of showing up to the gym under his belt, then he gave himself permission to elaborate on it and stretch it out and actually do a bit of a workout when he got to the gym, right? Like, the step one is show up, right? That's 80% of the process. The 80% of your results is just to show up. And that's where most people fail, is they can't show up. Like, they know what to do, but they just don't give themselves permission to actually go ahead and do it. They don't show up. So he solved that problem by just building the habit of showing up. And he made it so ridiculously small. Like, who can't drive to the gym, walk through the door, and then turn around and walk back out and go home? Like, everybody physically can do that. Like, hey, if you did it after work or before work or on your lunch break or whatever, you just build a habit in there. Because the hardest exercise you're ever going to do in the gym is pushing open that gym door and walking through it. That's the hardest exercise. Once you're in there, it's like coasting downhill. It gets easier from there. So he actually built the habit of just showing up. And then once the habit's in place, then it starts to become automatic. And you can, like I say, it's not initial. I mean, there's a curve that you have to go through. But the initial part, that initial resistance, is just the show up part. And once you can overcome that, then it gradually gets easier and easier. And eventually you become to the point where it becomes automatic and it's something that you have to do. It's something you crave to do. It's not like you don't wake up thinking, oh, am I going to do it today? I don't know. I don't feel like it, blah, blah, blah. You just do it. It's who you are. It's what you do. Think of it like going to work. Like, do you wake up in the morning and think, I don't know if I'm going to go to my job today? I don't think so. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Nah, screw it. I'm just going to go back to bed. Like, if that's the way you approached your job, you wouldn't have a job very long. You'd be fired and they'd find someone else to replace you. Because if you're that unreliable, like, nobody wants you. Like, you would get fired immediately if that's how you approached your job. But you show up, you go to work, even if you don't feel like it, even if you're a bit tired, even if it's Monday morning and blah, I don't want to go, blah, blah, blah. You do it anyway because it's who you are, it's what you do, and that's how you put food on the table. Like, it's an essential part of your life. Well, fitness has to be just as essential as that, right? And once it becomes that and it has that level of importance, then you're going to do it, right? So, I mean, you have to reprioritize it and refocus it. And instead of thinking of it as something that I have to do, think of it as something you get to do. Like, you don't realize the power of a healthy and fit body. Like, until you've experienced it and you live it and you enjoy it and you're reaping the benefits of it, you don't realize how good it is. So instead of thinking of it as, oh, I got to work out, oh, I got to do this, oh, this sucks, blah. Think of this as an opportunity, right? This is a gift. I mean, and look at it from that point of view and think of how privileged you are that you can actually go and do this, because there's a lot of people who can't. Right? Think of like getting outside and going for a walk, like how privileged you are to be able to get outside and go for a walk. Like, there's people out there who don't have legs or who have disabilities or whatever that prevent them from doing that, who would actually love to be able to freaking go for a walk. People who'd love to be able to go to the gym and exercise. Like, think of it from a point of gratitude. And instead of I have to, it's that I get to. And once you start changing the focus like that, I mean, your mindset and your attitude towards it changes immensely. And then it gets to the point where it's not willpower. It's not, forcing yourself. It's not motivation. It's habit, right? Like, how do you build up the motivation to get a shower every day? How do you build up the motivation to brush your teeth every day? How do you build up the motivation to, go to work every day? It ain't motivation. It's a freaking habit. It's who you are and what you do, right? Motivation is temporary. I mean, motivation can help you to start something new, but it's not going to sustain it long term. Right? Motivation's like a fart in the wind. It's here and gone, right? Habits and systems. That's what you got to rely on, right? We don't rise to the level of our goals. We fall to the level of our habits and systems. And again, that's another quote from James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits. Well, again, if you're looking for a good book recommendation, I would definitely recommend that one. All right. So it's not motivation. Motivation's overrated. It's all about developing the habits. Where am I? I lost my place. We've got another question coming from William. Says, how are you doing? I visited Toastmasters like you advised a few weeks ago. Congratulations. That's huge, right? You got some advice and you actually took action and followed through on it. Like, that puts you in a very small minority, because lots of people get advice and strategies and stuff like that, but they do jack shit with it. It's like in one ear, out the other, fart in the wind, right? Like think of diet and exercise. Like, everybody, you have more diet and exercise advice than you know what to do with, but most people are not applying it. So you actually applied. I tip my hat to you. I respect you for doing that. So he says, I visited Toastmasters like you advised, and I also messaged you, and he said it was a great and productive. The people are kind and very cool too. Awesome. I'm so glad you did that. And like, that takes so much courage, so much balls to like get outside your comfort zone and to do that. But just show up. Like, all the stuff that I was talking about earlier, like just show up. Do that with the Toastmasters. Like, literally just show up. And if you're not familiar with what I'm sharing here, I actually made a video about this. I did it on a video chat, and then I took that, clip it, and made it into a separate video and posted it up on my YouTube channel about what was the title of that video? I got to double check it there now. Let me see. But this is an important one I think everybody should watch it. What was that video called? Just a second. I got to go find it there. How I overcame shyness and social anxiety and the thumbnail's got like bodybuilding confidence and self-esteem. It's like on my channel right now, it's the 5th video back. So if you go to my video list, just scroll through, it's right there. But how I overcame shyness and social anxiety. That's what the title of the video is. And if you haven't seen that one already, go back and watch it after this video chat's over, because it's definitely worthwhile. But much respect for you. I got to say, I'm proud of you. I really am. I'm proud of you for taking action and doing that. Right. That one step right there can be a game changer. And it was for me, right? It really was. All right, moving on. What else we got? John joining in says, highly, I was running late. Can carbs cause bloating? Okay, well, you're not late, you're here, right? That's good. He says, can carbs cause bloating? It depends. I mean, if you overeat, yeah, you can get bloated. I mean, you can pretty much get bloated from anything, but it really depends on the type of foods and your individual stomach issues and intolerances. Like some people will get bloated from certain foods more than others, but when it comes to carbohydrates, they do cause water retention, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but for every gram of carbohydrate that gets stored, i.e. stored glycogen, your body will retain 3 to 4 grams of water. So when you consume carbohydrates and you fill up your carbs and glycogen stores, you will retain more water. Now, a lot of that water is actually stored as muscle glycogen. So that's what gives you full muscles. That's what allows you to get a pump. That allows you to have energy to train with. But with that being said, certain foods, depending on your individual digestion and gut health and everything else, may cause you to have more gas and bloating than others, especially if you're eating, high fiber foods, certain vegetables, especially if you're not used to them, they can cause gas and bloating. You may have certain intolerances. So if you are experiencing bloating, then you want to look into it. And like this is something that's big. Like you need to really do a whole deep dive into your whole nutrition program. It's just more than I really have time to cover here. But something that you can look into is the FODMAP, FODMAP. Just do a search for that because it covers some common foods that can cause bloating issues. And you can start experimenting with eliminating certain foods and try and figure out what may be causing certain issues. So if there's if you've made any dietary changes recently that's causing extra gas and bloating, then you might want to reevaluate some of those changes. You could even go to your doctor and get tested, see if you have any type of intolerances, like gluten intolerances or lactose intolerance or any of dietary intolerances, and get checked for that as well, because that's something that you need to address, especially if you are feeling it. Some things that you can try in the short term that may help, like digestive enzymes and probiotics, they can help with the process. Also, eating smaller, more frequent meals can help with your body's digestion, because if you're eating bigger meals, it's harder for your body to break down and digest a lot of food at once. Whereas if you're eating smaller, more frequent meals, it's easier for the body to break it down and digest because it's less load at any one given time. So that may help. But there's what I would suggest. First off, if you made any dietary changes in recent weeks, reevaluate those and kind of probably even do a bit of an elimination diet where you see hey, I added this food in, I'm going to try going a week without eating that food and see how I feel, right? Am I still getting the gas and bloating? If you are, then obviously it's not that food, and you can add that one back in and try eliminating another one. I mean, it can be a tedious process, this whole elimination, but you can try doing that and just see what foods could be causing it. And another way of going about elimination diets too is you could have a very sparse, simple diet and then just gradually start adding in food and then see which foods cause the gas and the bloating. But I would also recommend talking to your family doctor, get some tests done to see if you do have any gut health issues or intolerances, because there might be some underlying issues. And sometimes this is stuff that develops over time. As you get older, your body doesn't naturally produce as much digestive enzymes, and digestion and gut health can take a beating over time. Like prime example, my father, never had any digestion issues when he was a younger man, but now in his later years, he's developed lactose intolerance, and he has to take digestive enzymes and be very particular about the foods he eats because of that. And that's common. Like a lot of people develop certain intolerances as they get older. So again, if you are experiencing it, get it checked out, right? Don't leave it to chance, right? Get it checked out. All right, moving on. We've got AJ joining in. Says, hope you're well. I am quite lean as now I have visible abdominal definition, which is fantastic. That's like the trophy for most people. In your experience, do you think guys who lift neglect ab exercises? I think it's always worth training abs. Not necessarily. I mean, sometimes people will neglect certain muscle groups, but overall, I think a lot of people do train their abs. I mean, you you see it quite often, like especially people who are new to working out, right? They want to train the show off muscles, the chest, the arms, the abs, right? Because that's the muscles that they want to be able to see, the beach body muscle. So I think a lot of people do train their abs, but the thing with abdominal training is, yes, it's important. Yes, it's going to help, but that's not what's going to give you visible abdominal definition, right? It's losing the body fat that's covering the abs is what's going to give you the abdominal definition. Now, strengthening the muscles, I mean, that's obviously going to help building it up, but the abs are different from other muscle groups because we don't want to build bigger abs, right? Like, and then nobody's going to ask you, hey, what's your 1 rep max sit up, right? Like it's not an ego exercise. Like, hey, how much can you bench? Like, how much can you sit up, right? Like it's not like that. It's not one of those. It's the abs are basically stabilizer muscles for your core, right? So you do want to train them, but you train them differently than you train other body parts, right? It's not like I want to build bigger abs, like I want to build bigger biceps, but you want to train them and strengthen them so that they can support all the other muscle groups. Because I mean, when your abs and core is strong, that's going to make you strong all over. It's going to help to aid with all your exercises. So with the abdominals, what I generally recommend people to do is more frequent abdominal workouts and making sure that you're hitting all areas of your core. Now, it doesn't always have to be done in the same session. Like you can break it up over the course of the week. Like maybe one session you focus on working the frontal abdominals, maybe another section you're going to do some twisting and rotation works, so you get in some oblique work. Other sessions you might work on the lower back. But over the course of the week, you want to make sure that you're hitting all sides of the abs, all sides of the core, right? The frontal abdominal wall, the obliques, the lower back, so that you're strengthening that core. And it's like building your own internal weightlifting belt, if you will, just from a strong core. And that's going to aid with all your exercises and sports performance. I mean, that'll help with obviously your big lifts, squats, bench, deadlift, overhead press, rows, anything like that. It's going to help with just your general physical fitness when it comes to day-to-day activities and chores. It'll even help with your cardiovascular performance because a lot of times, your core comes into play. It's what links up the upper and lower body. So if you have a weak core, that's going to hinder you when it comes to running and cycling and swimming and anything like that. So having strong core muscles is just going to help you in all areas. So you definitely want to focus on it, but it's a different style of training versus, building bigger biceps or building a bigger chest or something like that. What else we got? Neil's joining in. Says, good morning. Greetings from the Philippines. He says, they say that slowing down the tempo is better for muscle gains, like 5 to 6 seconds. Is it better than just controlling the way down? What are your thoughts? You can take anything to extremes, but generally speaking, maintaining control of your exercises is better for muscle gains, for hypertrophy, simply than just trying to move the weight from point A to point B. And different exercises will respond better to different training tempos. There are some exercises that need to be done fast and explosive. There are some exercises that respond better to a slower tempo and more time under tension. So kind of give you some examples here. Isolation moves, like bicep curls and leg extensions and abdominal work, side lateral raises, anything where you're really trying to isolate an individual muscle, that usually works better with a slower controlled tempo, more of a mind muscle connection, not simply just trying to swing and heave weight, but actually trying to contract and work the muscle as you're doing the exercise. So isolation exercises tend to work best for slower tempo, more muscle control. Bigger power exercises, you can be a bit more explosive with them, right? Because you're working a lot more muscle, you're moving a lot more weight. And depending on the type of exercise, some have to be done fast and explosive. Like think of Olympic lifting, like the snatch, the clean and jerk, and stuff like that. That you can't do that slow and controlled. It's impossible. Nobody's going to slowly, clean and jerk a weight overhead. It ain't going to happen. It has to be done fast and explosive. So, I mean, certain moves like that have to be done. A lot of athletic moves have to be done fast and explosive. Like try and jump as high as you can, as slow as you can. Like if you try and jump slowly, you'll never get off the ground. Like that, it has to be fast and explosive, right? Try and sprint as slow as you can. Like, certain things have to be done fast and explosive. But when it comes to the exercises, there are some things that respond better to slow and controlled. So when it comes to your exercises, you really need to adjust it based on what it is you're doing and what it is you're trying to achieve for the bigger picture. Now, for the average Joe who's in there just trying to like get in better shape, you're probably new to intermediate with your workouts and you're just like, hey, I just want to build muscle, lose the gut, get back in shape. I would recommend focusing on quality over simply just trying to be fast and explosive and lift heavy weight. Like focus on actually feeling the muscles working. And then when you get to the point where the exercise that you're doing feels easy, like add weight, like increase the weights and build it up slowly, but don't force it. Don't try and just simply adding weight for the sake of adding weight. Like focus on quality, getting that mind muscle connection first. And then when you can lift heavier, when hey, this is getting too easy, I think I can go heavier, then you go heavier. Instead of getting caught up in the trap of always trying to go, add an extra 5 pounds every week. Like I see some guys do that. And, initially you may get away with it, but that often leads to poor exercise form and just simply throwing around weight using momentum and heaving and jerking versus actually controlling and feeling the muscles work. All right. So for general fitness, I would recommend, a controlled tempo. It doesn't necessarily have to be exaggerated slow, but controlled. And what I mean by controlled is you're in control of the weight. Like as you're doing your exercises, like you could stop it at any moment and control it. Whereas if you're heaving and jerking, you can't stop it at any moment and control it. So like think if you're doing like a bicep curl, if you got to heave and swing and like use momentum to just get that weight up, you're not in control of the weight. But if you're doing a nice strict curl, like you could pause halfway up and hold the weight mid rep, right? And then you could hold it at the top and hold it in the middle. Like be in control of it. Even when you're doing a bench press, like you should be able to pause the weight at your chest and then continue on instead of like just dropping it down, bouncing it off your chest and using momentum. Like be able to control the weight and maintain that control as you're doing the exercise. And then once you lose that control, once you hit the moment of fatigue where you can no longer control the weight, your form starts to break down. That's true muscular failure. Like failure is not the point at which you can't move the weight at all. Failure is the point at which your form starts to break down and you can't do another repetition with good form. So once you get to the point where you lose that control, then you can say, I trained to failure. You can rack the weight and end the set, right? And that's what I do myself. And it's a very effective way to train, and it's also a very safe way to train because you're not pushing the limits of, where the muscles, you're risking injury, where you're training so hard and so heavy and not in control that now you're using momentum and heaving and jerking, and then that's when muscles can tear and you cause a lot of potential injury. So always maintain control of the weight when you're doing your workouts for most exercises in most situations. Right. All right, moving on. What would you consider a cheat meal? That's from Nicholas. What would I consider a cheat meal? Yeah, pizza, takeout. I mean, I don't know what a cheat meal. I guess you could look at it however you want, but it's basically eating something that you normally wouldn't do, and you're eating it because you enjoy it, the taste of it more so than the nutritional value. That's generally what a cheat meal is, right? I'm going to, if this is something that I don't eat very often, but you know what, I'm craving it, I want to have it, so I'm going to have some. Like maybe it could be ice cream, maybe it could be a potato chips or cookies or cake or again pizza or whatever, hamburger and French fries, something along those lines. That's generally what most people consider a cheat meal. Now, with that being said, sometimes you can have a cheat meal by just eating too darn much. Like it may still be healthy, but like it could be in the boundaries of cheat meal territory because the calorie consumption puts it over and above your limits and your needs. So sometimes people just eat too darn much. And this is something that I sometimes fall guilty of, right? And I've seen a lot of my coaching students falling into this trap as well, eating too much healthy food and causing their fat loss to plateau, right? Like certain things, especially more calorie dense foods, like generally speaking, that's the carbohydrate foods, sometimes a lot of the fatty foods and things like that. Those are the foods that people tend to eat too much of. In fact, I was having a chat today with Reggie, one of my coaching students, and one of his weaknesses was cashews. He loves cashews, and he used to snack on them. I mean, like most people would consider nuts, okay, a healthy food, right? Like, and he did as well. Like he said, well, it's not processed, it's natural and blah blah blah. Like it's better than going out and eating ice cream, this and that. But it's so calorie dense, right? It's super calorie dense. In fact, in a third of a cup of cashews, there's 300 calories. A third of a cup is like a little handful. Like, you can take it and gulp it down, like chew it up in a single mouthful and not realize that you just slam back 300 calories, right? Like it's not a lot of volume, but it's so calorie dense. And this was something that he was doing. Like throughout the day, he'd grab a handful of cashews and just munch on them. And he'd do that 2 or 3 times throughout the day. So over the course of the day, he was easily getting an extra 500 to an extra 1,000 calories just from stupid cashews. And then he was wondering, like, why am I not losing weight? Like, why am I stuck? Right. So, I mean, like, that could be considered a cheat meal in a sense, or a cheat because it's throwing him off the trajectory of where he wants to go with his fitness and fat loss. So he actually, on my recommendation, he cut out the cashews and instantly the weight started to drop. So sometimes it can be as simple as that. Like, it doesn't have to be, these ridiculous epic cheat meals like you see some YouTubers posting, epic cheat day, 10,000 calorie cheat. Like, no, it doesn't have to be that. Like, it could be sometimes the simplest things could be considered a cheat meal. And from a progress point of view, sometimes the simplest things can be the thing that throws you off, right? The details matter. All right, what else we got there? We got JE joining in. He says, do you still lift, or sorry, how do you still lift? No, I screwed that up. Do you still lift when you are sore from your previous workout? That depends. If you are still sore from your previous workout, obviously you haven't fully recovered. So I wouldn't go in there and try and, push yourself hard if you're still sore. I mean, your body is not fully recovered, but you can still exercise. You can still work around it either by training different muscle groups, or you can work around it by doing easier active recovery type of workouts. So, like, for example, if you trained legs and, your next leg day is rolled around the schedule, but your legs are still sore from the previous leg day, you could still go in there and do some leg exercises, but you wouldn't be training it at the same level and the intensity as the workout that caused the soreness. It would be kind of like an active recovery workout. So lighter weights, higher repetitions, and just kind of flushing the muscles with blood. And this is actually very advantageous to do these easy workouts because they help to speed up the recovery process. Active recovery is actually faster to speed up the healing and the recovery process than doing nothing. So in my case, I like to alternate weight training one day and cardio the next. I'm sure if you're regular to the video chat, you probably heard me say this before. I refer to it as my yin and yang training system. So it's the high intensity weight training one day, low intensity cardio the next, and I like to alternate it back and forth. So this usually allows me to recover without having to deal with that soreness when it comes time to do my next workout. But if you are still experiencing the soreness, then those are some options that you can utilize. Like, instead of going through and doing a full-on weight training workout, maybe you'll swap that out and do a cardio session that day. And by doing the cardio, you're getting some blood flow, some circulation. You're still getting some light muscle activation, but it's not breaking down the muscles the same as high intensity weight training. It's just gentle exercise to help aid with the recovery process. Plus, you're getting the cardiovascular and the fat burning benefits from it as well. Or if you want, you can actually go into the gym and do an easy workout. Like you can do some lighter machine exercises or something along those lines so that you're still flushing the muscle with blood and helping to improve, but it's not tearing it down. And this is something you're seeing a lot more of these days is the idea of active recovery workouts. It's like it doesn't always have to be go heavy or go home. Like that whole no pain, no gain, go hard or go home bullshit. Like you're seeing a lot more in sports in general, the idea of incorporating active recovery. And a lot of times they even refer to it as polarized training, especially in endurance sports is a very popular term, where the majority of your workouts are actually lower intensity workouts. And then you throw in a few high intensity sessions where you push the limits, but that's not the norm. Like you can't go in there and go balls to the wall 100% day in, day out every day. Like your body just can't recover from that. I mean, it just is going to hit the breaking point where you're going to burn yourself out, overtrain, or get injured. But you can train a lot more frequently and a lot more consistently if you vary the intensity of those workouts. So, go in there and have a high intensity day. And then, the next day is going to be a low intensity, or maybe even the next few days could even be low intensity. And then go in there and have another high intensity day and then a few more low intensity days. And when you space it out that way, you can actually make faster progress and reap more of the overall fitness benefits because you can train more frequently with lower intensity workouts. You can reap the health benefits and the metabolic benefits and all that of regular exercise, but you're not tearing your body down and breaking and beating it up. So you need to factor that in there. And that's why I love that weight training one day, cardio the next, because it allows me to exercise every day without suffering the overtraining, pitfalls. So that's what I would recommend. If and that's what I do myself. Like if I'm scheduled to work out and I'm still sore, then hey, I'm not going to go in there and you know dig myself into a hole and risk injury. I'm either going to do an easy workout in the gym or I'm going to do a cardio session instead. Um, what else we got there? YT is asking if I'm a fan of Zercher deadlifts. I've used to do them back in the day, like back when I was training for and competing in powerlifting. I did do some Zercher. I didn't do Zercher deadlifts. I refer to them as Zercher squats, but I know what you mean. It's basically you're lifting with the barbell in the crook of your arms. And I used to do it in the power rack or the squat rack. I would just on rack the weights in the crook of my arms, and it's kind of like a front squat variation in that sense. And I did it, but I wasn't a fan of it because it's a very uncomfortable exercise. Like I'd have to wrap the bar with something like a towel or whatever because it just digs in. It is a painful exercise. But I mean, if you like it and it works for you, hey, go for it. But it's not a popular exercise. Like you go into most commercial gyms and you will never see anybody doing Zercher squats or Zercher deadlifts. Very, very rare. Uh, I'm just thinking of the how often I've seen it. It's like there was back at one of the old gyms that I used to train at, there was a group of powerlifters that used to go in there and train. And I used to sometimes see them do them, but I wasn't frequently, but I have seen them do them on occasion. But in all my years of training, it's one of those exercises like once in a blue moon you're going to see it, right? It's not a common exercise. So I mean, I didn't do it a lot, and I just did it basically out of curiosity more than anything because I've heard about them. I learned about those exercises from watching the old West Side Barbell tapes with Louis Simmons, the old VHS tapes. And that was one of the exercises that he showed on the videos, and I tried it, but it was by no means a staple in my workouts. Now, that doesn't mean it's a bad exercise. It's just I didn't personally fancy it. So if you like it, it works for you, more power to you. I'd rather do a front squat or something along that nature myself. What else we got there? Um, Okay, John's following up to the question about the carb causing bloating. He says he has a gluten intolerance. Well, I mean, obviously, uh, that's an issue. I mean, if you have a gluten intolerance, then there's a lot of things, foods related to any wheat products, because gluten is basically wheat protein. So anything that you're eating that contains wheat, it has gluten in it. So that could be an issue that could cause the bloating. But if it would be worthwhile to get it checked out, see if there are any other intolerances. So obviously, you're going to have to eliminate carbohydrates that contain wheat and focus on non-wheat varieties instead. You know, the potatoes and the rice and oatmeal and things of that nature should be more easily digestible. Look for the non-gluten, i.e., non-wheat products, and that should help. We have Loke SH says, "Hello, I'm 38. If I take a pre-workout supplement, will what?" Okay, I'm laughing at the question here, but it's probably a serious question, right? I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt, and I'm going to address the question. He says, "I'm 38 years old. If I take a pre-workout supplement, will it affect the quality of my semen?" It shouldn't. All right. Like if you're trying to have a baby, I mean, obviously this is something that could be, a serious concern, right? If you're in that situation, right, you're trying to get your wife or significant other pregnant, and that could be an issue. But pre-workout supplements shouldn't affect it. But with that being said, if you're trying to have a baby and everything else, it might be worth, you know, try, like, you may want to avoid something like that, like certainly avoid, you know uh, things that you're unsure of. And what I do instead of pre-workouts, because when you look at pre-workouts, like, that's a broad category, right? And there's what could be thrown into a pre-workout can vary from company to company and supplement to supplement. So like some of them are basically just caffeine and very minimal. Other things could have all kinds of stimulants and crap thrown in there as well. So you really don't know what you're getting, because a lot of them can throw in a lot of stuff. And a lot of times pre-workout supplements are overkill. Like there's so much in there. It's almost like a pissing match to see who can make the most jittery supplement out there. And it's one of those supplements where people judge the effectiveness by how it feels. So like if you slam back something that's loaded with caffeine and stimulants and all that, and you start to feel jittery and wired, then people say, "Oh, that's a good one," right? Because it hits you hard. But it's one of those things. It's like a double-edged sword, because while it hits you hard and you may get that boost initially, eventually it can be overkill and it causes like adrenal fatigue, and it actually becomes to the point where you start to rely on the pre-workouts. And I've seen a lot of people who consume excessive amounts of stimulants and caffeine and things like that get to the point where it's no longer an energy booster, it's just an energy maintainer. And like if they don't take it, they don't even have enough energy to just to function. In fact, I knew a friend of mine who really abused, coffee and pre-workout and all this stuff, these energy shots and everything else. And he was up to 2,000 milligrams of caffeine a day. Like that's astronomical amounts. Like 2,000 milligrams is like, that's off the charts. And like he wasn't getting energy from that. That's what he needed, just to function, to get through the day. So like he had to go on a big like caffeine and stimulant detox to kind of just reset his body. And it was a lengthy and a process. I mean, like you go through withdraw and crash, and it's not a fun process. It's almost like a drug rehab program, for that matter. Well, it is a drug rehab program. I mean, caffeine is a drug. It's one of the most abused drugs out there. So like it's something that you want to be very careful of. And as far as affecting the quality of your little swimmers down there, I mean, I don't know in particular. Like I haven't, I had put them in a test tube to like, hey, here's before pre-workout, here's after pre-workout. I don't know. Maybe they'll be swimming faster. Who knows? They'll be jacked up on all the caffeine. Right? They'll swim to the egg super fast. I don't know. But it's something that, obviously you might want to look into if this is something of serious quality, serious issue, and you're looking into trying to get your lady friend pregnant, then you might want to talk to your doctor. That's what I'm going to advise. Talk to your doctor, or talk to your fertility specialist, or whoever it is you're talking to, and get some insights on there, because I really don't know, right? I'm just be totally honest. I really don't know, but I'm just saying that it can affect other processes in the body, which may or may not hinder the little swimmers as well. But bottom line, I'm not a big fan of pre-workouts myself, and I very rarely will use a pre-workout. My pre-workout of choice is a cup of black coffee, right? Like it's simple, it's natural, it's something I know what's in there. It's just coffee, like there's no other added gunk and stimulants. It's just, a small dose of caffeine there, and I tolerate it well. I enjoy it as well, right? I mean, I enjoy the taste of coffee. So it's something that, hey, I'm going to enjoy this. It gives me a little bit of an energy boost. And I do so in moderation. Like I'll have 2 to 3 cups of coffee a day, right? And I try to cap it at that. And I try to save the coffee for when I need it. And I usually, before workout, so something along those lines is when I tend to have it. I mean, I like to start morning with coffee. A lot of times I do exercise in the morning as well, so I'll piggyback that. And then, but I usually limit it to 2 to 3 cups of coffee a day, because I don't want to go overkill. Because I've been guilty of that as well in the past, where I've done too much caffeine, and it gets to the point where it's no longer helping; it's just maintaining your energy. And then when it gets to that stage, you really need to reassess and reset your body's tolerance to caffeine and stimulants. My wife is asking, how long will it take her to go from doing 1 push-up to doing 35? She's trying to join the military. I have no idea, because I don't know how good a shape your wife's in or whatever. I mean, if she can do 1 push-up, then that's on the beginner phase. I mean, if she can do one really good push-up, yeah, that's actually good by average person standards, because the average person can't do a freaking push-up. Like, you go out in public and see the average person, like they can't do push-ups because they don't have the strength to do it. So if she can do 1 push-up, well, that's progress. But how long will it take her to get to doing 35? I really don't know. Right. All I can tell you to focus on is progress. And one of the best ways to make progress when it comes to exercises like that, multiple sets of low reps. Now, obviously, if she's doing 1 push-up, then the reps are going to be very low. But start with easier push-up variations, and then do multiple sets of low reps with those easier variations, and then build it up over time. So there's different ways of going about doing push-ups. One that I'm a big fan of, like you can do push-ups, like a lot of people talk about the girl push-ups, push-ups on the knees and stuff like that. That's one variation that you can do. But I like doing push-ups where you have some um, lean on something. Like you can set up a barbell in a rack, and use that to, and kind of, or even a countertop. Like this is if you're doing them at home, like literally go into your kitchen, and like your kitchen counter, which is usually somewhere around waist height for most people, like lean on the kitchen counter and do your push-ups against the countertop. And when you're doing your push-ups on that angle, it cuts down the amount of body weight that you have to lift, but you're still going through the same movement pattern. You're still working the same muscles, but you're just doing so with less resistance. And that's a great way to build up your stamina and to strengthen those muscles that come into play when doing the push-up. I actually have a video tutorial. Let me just double check. What's it called? I think it's like Lee Hayward push-ups for beginners or something along those lines. If you do a search for that, you should be able to find it. I'm just going to do a quick search here now and see what they're called. I got a bunch of push-up videos actually. It's one of the most recent ones that I did. I did it last year. It's the title of it is a muscle building progressive push-up program, complete beginner's guide. So, but if you just do search for Lee Hayward push-ups, you'll see all the different videos that I've done on push-ups over the years. But one that I would definitely recommend you watch is, again, that it's the title of the video is muscle building progressive push-up program. In fact, I'm just going to snag the link of it there and put it in our chat window for you. Let me see here. I'm trying to copy and paste the link. Let's see if that's working here. I think it's working. Okay. But do a search for that, and that will be a great guide for anybody who's trying to improve their push-ups. So, I mean, even if you can't do a single push-up right now, or you're doing very little, that covers a complete progressive guide. And there's a lot of different exercises in there that you can use to build up your stabilization muscles that come into play when you're doing the push-ups. Because it's not just about hitting the floor and just trying to rep out as many push-ups as you can. Like that's the slow, painful way to go about it. I mean, yes, it will work. Anything is better than nothing, but there is a progressive system that you can follow to help with that. So I just typed a link there. I didn't put a title to it, but it's just, you'll see a YouTube link in the bottom of the video chat. Click on that, and that'll take you right to that push-up video. All right, I'm going to get ready and start to clue this up because we're over the hour mark. We got Trigger says, I'm 15, I'm 6'2", I weigh a lot. How can I lose weight and gain muscle? Diet and exercise. That's a that's a loaded question there, because there's so many variables. Like, what are you eating? What are you doing as far as exercise? Like, what are you doing right now? And then how can we be better than you were before? But if you're looking for like a basic step-by-step beginner's guide to get started, I would recommend starting with some of those beginner workout videos that I've got up on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding YouTube channel. Another one that you can do as well, you can, in the link below this video in the description, there's a link to my Ripped After 40 program. Now, I know it says after 40, but the same principles still apply to people who are younger. So like the same basic diet and training principles would still apply to a teenager as it would for someone who's older. The biggest difference between training and nutrition for someone who's older versus younger is, one, when you're younger, you can actually get away with a lot more, right? Like your body's more forgiving, your recovery and your hormone levels are higher, and things tend to work better. So the principles that are actually outlined in that Ripped After 40 PDF would be even better for you because you're so young. You have youth on your side, right? So, I mean, the body actually works more efficiently when it's younger, and it can recover faster. So it's actually better, but the same principles. But that would be a good one to kind of give you the bigger picture perspective of how to look at healthy diet, exercise, and lifestyle choices. And the big thing that I want you to wrap your head around right from the start is this isn't achieved through some sort of short-term diet or short-term workout program. Like anything that you just suffer through in the short term, like say, I'm going to go on some crazy low carb cutting diet, I'm going to work out like a madman and just lose all the weight and have it done and over with. That approach never works because it's short term. You need to think of like, how can you make sustainable changes that you enjoy and you can sustain for the rest of your life? Because this is a lifestyle change. It's not some suffer it out, like I'm going to starve myself for a month and lose the weight and be done with it, right? Diet and exercise doesn't work like that. Like getting in shape, it's a lifelong journey. It's something that you have to be able to do and maintain. And that's the biggest problem in the fitness industry, is people have this short-term vision of like, I want to lose weight, so I'm going to go on some crazy diet. I'm going to go keto. I'm going to go carnivore. I'm going to go intermittent fast. I'm going to starve myself, and I'm going to work out like a madman. Like you think of the average person come New Year's resolution time, right? They're so fed up of being fat and out of shape. This, January 1st rolls around. They say, that's it. I'm joining the gym. I'm going on a diet. I'm going to kill myself, and I'm going to lose all this weight, right? And then they do that for a week or two, and then they're end up burnt out, fed up, hungry, hangry, can't sustain it, and then they quit and go back to their old habits again. Whereas if you just focus on being better than you were before, making small, simple changes, and then let those changes compound, and then gradually build on those. But like just start small, simple stuff, right? Small, and then have those small changes become part of your lifestyle and let it sustain and build from there. And in fact, another thing that I have that I would recommend you check out as well, I did a few videos called Your First Step to Fat Loss. So just do a search for Lee Hayward, First Step to Fat Loss. Those are some great videos that'll get you moving in the right track as well. So again, and it's all about creating those small, subtle, sustainable changes changes that you can do and maintain and sustain as a lifestyle, and not just thinking of hey, I'm going to go on a diet and suffer it out. And then, because that never works, right? It works in the short term, which is deceiving, but it never lasts long term. Like, I mean, how often have you seen people go on some crazy diet, whatever it is, keto, fasting, paleo, whatever, and they do it for a few months and they might drop a bit of weight. And then you see them 6 months or a year later and they got all the weight back on, probably even a few pounds more. Like, that's the typical yo-yo diet syndrome. And that's what happens to over 90% of people who go on a diet, right? They lose it in the short term and then they regain it all back in the long term. And what's the point of doing that? Like, what's the point of dropping 20 pounds if you're going to put 25 back on? Like, you'd be better off not doing anything. Just stay where you are. At least you wouldn't have the stress of trying to go through that whole process, right? You could just, hey, be fat and happy, right? Versus stress yourself out for the short term and then ultimately go back to being fat and overweight in the long term. So you need to create a sustainable and enjoyable process. I mean, that's what we cover in the whole Muscle After 40 Blueprint coaching program is that sustainable approach. And it's a different mindset. It's a game changer for a lot of people, right? And once you grasp it and you start living with that, I mean, it's like, why did you ever let yourself get fat to begin with? Like, that's the feedback that I get from so many people who've gone through it. Like, it's almost like seeing the matrix. Like, you're seeing the truth, right? You're going through the matrix and you're reading through all those lines of green code and you actually see the truth. You see, uncover all the bullshit and you say, why has it been so hard? Like, why did I let myself get fat and out of shape to begin with? When the reality is, you can still enjoy yourself, you can still live a healthy lifestyle, and you can still, feel good and not go hungry and deprived and actually enjoy the process, right? So, I mean, like, once you have that in place, like, why would you ever want to go back? Anyway, what else we got there? I'm going to get ready to clue it up. There's a couple more that popped in there. I'm just going to address real quick. We got Neil joining in. We got Joseph joining in. Joseph says he recently turned 55. He is in above average shape and an avid user of free weights. Are there any general precautions that I should take to avoid injury as I get older? Listen to your body. And what I mean by that is, if something hurts, don't do it. If something doesn't feel right, don't do it. Like this whole no pain, no gain, man up, push through it. No. If you get any aches, pains, or discomfort when you're working out, that's your body's check engine light flashing. Like, don't ignore it, right? So when I'm in the gym working out, if I feel anything that just doesn't feel right, I immediately stop what it is I'm doing and I reassess. Like, maybe I need to do a bit more mobility and warm up exercises to loosen up first. Or if I'm not feeling it in that particular exercise or that particular movement, then I'll do another exercise variation instead. Or I might even just scrap the movement pattern and do something totally different. In some cases, I might even scrap the workout, depending on how severe the aches or pains are in the moment. But if something doesn't feel right, don't do it. Right? Don't push through pain, right? Pain is there for a reason. That's your body's check engine light, and don't ignore it. Another thing that I would recommend is focus on letting yourself grow versus trying to force yourself to grow. Like, a lot of times when people train, they try and force themselves to progress. Like, they try and lift too much too soon. They try and force the body to change. And you can't force anything. You can just coax it along. You can encourage it, but you can't force it. And I use the analogy of, like, if we're growing a garden, like if I'm growing a vegetable garden or a flower garden, like, I can nurture it and I can help it to grow, but I can't force the plants out of the ground. Like, I can't go out there and curse and swear and yank them up and say, hey, I'm going to help these plants grow. So I'm going to go yank them up out of the ground. Like, if I yank them up, I'm going to tear the roots out of the ground and the plant's going to die. Like, you can't force it, but I can tend the soil. I can make sure that it gets adequate water. I can make sure that it's positioned right and gets lots of sunlight. And, I can fertilize it and nurture it and help the process along, but I can't force it. And your body's the same way. Like, you can't force yourself to grow. You can just provide the system, provide the habits, and like do all the right things and then let it grow. And when it comes to the workouts, like, don't be in such a hurry to increase the weights. Like, go through it, work the muscles. And then when you get to the point where, hey, that felt easy, I think I can lift heavier, then lift heavier. But don't always be in there like, always got to add an extra 5 pounds. I always got to get an extra rep. I always got to push harder, heavier. Because I mean, that works initially in the short term, especially, if you're younger and you got youth on your side, that helps. But as you get older, you can't have that, that aggressive approach anymore, because what's going to happen is something's going to break, something's going to give. The body is not as forgiving the older it gets. So you have to respect it more and just be a bit more patient. Consistency over intensity is the most important thing. And this is huge, because the only thing that's going to slow your progress down or stop it entirely is an injury. Like, literally, that's the only thing that's going to stop you or hinder your progress is an injury. Because if you skip a workout, big deal. Like, you can always pick it up and work out again the next day. If you cheat on your diet, big deal. Like, you can always clean it up and start again, get back on track for your next meal or the next day. Like, little things like that. Even if you go in there and you do an easy workout, well, that's fine. I mean, hey, there's nothing wrong with doing easy workouts. I already addressed the benefits of doing easy active recovery workouts earlier. So easy workouts, or even skipped workouts, cheating on your diet, like, those are all little just short-term hiccups. Like, they're not going to derail your progress, because you can always start again the next day. But if you go in there and you do too much too soon and you end up injuring yourself, whether you pull, tear, strain, snap something up, you're not bouncing back the next day. Like, if you go in there and you squat too heavy and you throw your back out, or you bench too heavy and you tear a pec, right? Like, you don't just, oh, I'll get back at it tomorrow. No, like, it doesn't bounce back, right? You're laid up with an injury, and that could take weeks or months, or in some cases it may never fully recover, right? And then it could end up leading to surgery and all kinds of things. Like, the only thing that's going to slow you down is an injury, right? So whatever you can, avoid injury. And that's why you have to be more respectful of your body and learn to be in tune with it. And anytime something doesn't feel right, don't ignore that. Listen to it. I see it all the time, where people try and, man up and work through the pain, and don't be a pussy. Go hard or go home, that type of crap. And or no pain, no gain. Like, all these bullshit macho sayings. I mean, I know they sound cool and they look cool if it's a logo on a t-shirt or something like that, but that's not the way real progress works, right? Like, that's just an injury waiting to happen. So you had to be more respectful of your body. That's the best advice that I can offer right there. What else? Lee's got a question. I'll answer this one. Lee's a regular to our chat. He says, I've had a shoulder and lower back issue for the past 6 months, despite regularly going to physio. The injuries are taking a long time to heal. Today, I tried dry needling and acupuncture, hoping it helps. I have no experience with dry needling or acupuncture, so I don't really have any feedback to offer there. But one thing that I can talk about that I've been doing recently is I've been visiting a chiropractor. And the reason I've been doing it is for carpal tunnel syndrome, because I've got carpal tunnel I've had it for years, but I've been managing it on my own with stretches and mobility work, and just keeping active. I've been able to keep it at bay, but it's been really acting up a lot over the past summer. And what was, I think, the root cause that really spiraled it out of control and got to the point where it's, no longer bearable and I'm looking for outside treatment, was I was on a 10-day camping trip back in July. And camping, sleeping in a tent every night, it's it wasn't the best for my posture and everything else, and it didn't feel the best. And I found that it really bothered my neck, especially on the left side of my neck. And that really tightened up. And I couldn't, it just, a few nights sleeping on the ground in the tent and stuff like that, it didn't help. And that really led to it. And carpal tunnel syndrome, if you're familiar with it, it's basically you feel the nerves in your hands, they go numb and tingly, because the tendons are being pinched off in the hands. But the root usually starts in the spine and the neck. Like, a lot of the root cause for pain usually are nerve impingements throughout the neck and the spine. So I've been seeing a chiropractor recently, and he's been doing work on my neck to try and loosen that neck up. And it has been helping. Like, I feel a lot more limber in the neck. It's not perfect, but there is improvement. And there has been some improvement with my carpal tunnel as well, but it's still lingering. So, that's something, you can look into as well. Anytime you have these delayed, unexplained injuries that are just lingering, maybe look into chiropractic work, because it could be like aligning the neck and doing some deep tissue work. I mean, obviously you are seeing a physio, which could be helping a lot as well. But if you haven't done so, like when they crack your neck, like you've probably seen videos and stuff of it, but I mean, it helps. I mean, like I remember the first time that he did it, and okay, you relax your neck and everything else. Next thing you know, like he twists it a certain way. Like, don't try this at home. But however the hell they do it, they twist your neck a certain way and like crack, and like, holy shit, like, whoa, now my neck is so much looser. Like, it works, right? It really does. It provides a lot of relief. And then it's a lot of the how they work in the nerves and stuff like that. I mean, I got to say, it's only been a few weeks, but I've noticed some improvement, and I'm fingers crossed that it's going to continue to lead to that. But that's something you might want to look into as well. Other options, and the cool thing about it is there's really no side effects to it. It's not like taking medication and painkillers and all that kind of crap, right? I mean, it's something that just helps your body to work the way it's supposed to work. So I am a big fan of natural treatments like that. What else we got there? Um, Kevin saying, if you stick with 3 compounds, is that enough to get in good shape along with a good diet? I pretty much addressed a very similar question to that right at the start of the video. So if you didn't catch the very beginning of the video chat, go back and watch the beginning, because I would basically just rehash what I said there to answer that question, Kevin. And the next one there, I'm going to clue it up with this one. This one's from AJ, and he's saying, how many push-ups would you say that you should be able to do to be considered advanced? I would say if you can do 50 push-ups in a row with good form, that's advanced, right? Like back when I was doing martial arts, and that's what I did before I got into bodybuilding training. I was doing a lot of martial arts. That was kind of like our benchmark, like 50 push-ups. If you could do 50 push-ups nonstop with good form, you were up there. You were in amongst the advanced guys. Now, there were a few who could really push it out and do a lot. Like I remember the most that I've ever done at my all-time best was I did hit 100 push-ups a few times. And that wasn't a true 100 push-ups nonstop. There was rest pause in there where like you'd lock it out at the top, take a few breaths, bang out push-ups, lock it out, take a few breaths, rest pause. But 100 push-ups without getting out of the push-up position, if you will. Like you'd stay on the floor in the push-up position and just bang out 100 reps. That's really advanced. But I think for most people, I mean, if you can bang out 50 push-ups in a row, like that's pat yourself on the back. You're advanced when it comes to push-ups. That's kind of the 50 push-ups. That's like benching over 300 pounds. Like that's in that realm of advanced category, if you will. It's not extreme. Like, I mean, there are people out there who can do way the hell more than that. You see some of the like world record push-ups and stuff like that. It's just insane numbers. I mean, they're just like genetic freaks. But for the majority of people, 50 push-ups would definitely put you into that advanced category, in my opinion. All right, folks, I'm going to clue it up. Hopefully you enjoy the video chat. As always, I enjoy doing it. I mean, I do. I look forward to these video chats every Friday. So hopefully you enjoyed listening in and you got some value from it. And I certainly enjoyed doing the video chat for you. And if you do have any questions or comments, or you want to elaborate on anything that we discussed today, feel free to reach out to me, whether you email me or friend me up over on Facebook. All right. I've got my links down in the description below, right? Don't be shy, right? If you got any questions, or maybe you're one of those people who watch the replay of these and you don't get the chance to watch the live video chat. If you're watching the replay and you want to submit a question for next week's chat, you can do that as well. Like, you can friend me up on Facebook, or you can send me an email and we can chat that way as well. So again, the email's down in the description below. It's leeh@leehayward.com, or just find me over on Facebook, facebook.com/lee.hayward. That's my profile over there, and you can friend me up and we can chat there. And if you do friend me up on Facebook, send me a message as well and just say, hey, I follow you on YouTube and I'd like to be friends on Facebook, or something like that. Because I do get a lot of friend requests over on Facebook, and some of them are a bit shady. I'm sure there's spam crap accounts, and like, unless I know it's a legit account, I probably won't always accept friend requests from every Tom, Dick, or Harry that requests them. So if you follow the video chat and you're actually like serious into fitness and nutrition and you want to, chat about it, then friend request me, but then also send me a private message and just say, hey, I follow you over on YouTube and I'd like to be friends on Facebook or something like that. Just so I got a basis of who the hell this person is that's friend requesting me. Right. Because a lot of times you get these fake accounts and trolls and crap and stuff like that. And when I get an account that looks suspicious, I just delete. Right. You got a limited number of friends that you can accept on Facebook anyway. So I don't want to fill it up with, BS accounts. But if it's a legit friend request from someone who follows my stuff, hey, I'll accept you and we can chat. All right, I'm going to clue it up. Have yourself a fantastic evening or day or morning or whatever it is for you. Like have yourself a good one. And I look forward to talking to you next week. Take care. Over and out.